Hey, welcome back. If you are watching this, there's a pretty good chance that you're a teacher. And if you are a teacher, then there's even a higher chance that your plate is full. I'm talking as full as my Uncle Mortimer's plate on Thanksgiving Day, kind of full. Now, if your plate is that full, then there's a really, really good chance that you have fallen into a very common trap that I see so many teachers fall into. And that is the trap of taking things home with you. That looks like grading on the weekend or coming in an hour early or staying an hour late. All of these things that you're doing outside of the time that you're actually contracted to work, which basically means you're working for free. What I want to share with you is the exact method that I use to not take work home and a way that decreases burnout and a pretty high chance that your students are going to love your lessons a bit more and be more engaged. At least those are the results that I've seen across the board. So, when I'm looking at how I can avoid burnout, there's four simple things. Got to talk into the microphone. There's four things. First is to simplify. Okay. The next is to make sure you're using the right tools. And once you're using the right tools, we want to get in there and plan it out. Got to have a game plan. And then finally, we want to execute. Okay, I want to pause for a minute. So simplify, get the right tools, plan, execute. And I want to make this very clear. This is not an overnight fix. What I can tell you is that this is a process that takes time. So if you're looking for a quick fix to like suddenly not be burnt out anymore, this is not the video to watch. But if you are willing to put in some work and kind of lean into some different perspectives on how we think about teaching, then this is definitely the video and you should stick around to the end because it's pretty good. Okay, so we have simplify, get the right tools, plan, and execute. When I'm thinking about simplifying, the first thing that I want to look at is our content. So, how can I simplify our content? Now, a lot of us watching might have very specific standards that we have to keep up with. I know for me, I've taught AP biology for a long time, IB biology. I have, know many people that are doing CTE skills classes that have long lists of standards. And when I started teaching, I thought that I had to do them all. But here's a myth that you actually might believe is that the standards are the definitive guide of all of the things you must teach in your class. From what I understand, the standards operate more like this. I view them more of a kind of a guide where where the content means that as we're pushing kids through, we can go this way, we can go that way, but we don't want to get outside of this guide. So here's like our end goal of what our students should know by the end of our course. And this is the general path that we want to take to get them there. If we're trying to absolutely do all of these things all along the way, that's going to take way too long and we might not even get to the end. I know I've experienced that when I tried to do that with AP Bio, trying to teach all the standards before the exam in the spring, man, near on impossible. And my kids got burnt out, I got burnt out, and it just wasn't very fun. So we want to simplify. I look at it in three kind of spheres. So the first sphere of content that I'm looking for are the must know stuff. The must know things. Absolutely, you have to know this by the end of the unit. And so this is for me usually one to two things, maybe three things from the standards, from my content that absolutely by the time they get to the end, they've got to know these one or two things. Okay. So that's the first sphere. Breaking it down, really kind of getting in there and getting rid of everything else except for those one or two things for that unit. Now it's useful to say that I'm talking about units for a whole year of content. There's obviously going to be way more than one or two things, but for each unit, you can probably bank on one or two really big core elements. Okay. From there, the next kind of bubble of all of this are the nice to know things. Things that are nice to know. I view this as stuff that you might think is an extension, maybe the things that we use for remediation, the things that we use for connection. So the stuff that is taking us from one must know to the next must know, right? So we might have two things, and the things in the middle are going to connect those dots for us. Okay, so those are my two pillars. All of these things come directly from the standards. Okay, they're the things that are in there in the list. I've just prioritized them, and I'm going to put more focus and effort and time into making sure my kids know these things before I branch out to the next one. Okay, the third and final kind of, I guess, sphere is what I would call maybe our pet projects. Okay, pet projects. These are the things that just like, man, that's the reason you got into this. Probably they are connected to the standards, but maybe they're just like all of the really like extra like, "Phew, did you know that?" Kind of the classic Bill Nye thing. I teach anatomy right now. And so there's a lot of times where I'll sprinkle in some of those did you know that's and have fun conversation with my students. So this is the process for simplifying. We have all of our content that we feel like we might have to get to before our students get to the end, but breaking it down and focusing on just those must know things first. The next thing I want to talk about for simplify, and I'll go into this more in an upcoming video, but it's grading stuff. Okay, Another myth that I see a lot is that teachers feel like they have to grade everything they assign to their students because if there's no grade, then the kids won't care and they won't do it. But I feel like that's sending the wrong message to our students and certainly the wrong message to yourself as you're planning. That wrong message is that you're in school to get a grade, but that isn't the reason why kids are in school. And so I'm pretty transparent with my students and I will tell them that some assignments are not being graded. I'll even tell them which assignments aren't. But what I'm also very transparent with is why they are doing that assignment and why it matters for the class, why it matters for what's coming down the line. There's an exam, there's a project, there's something that they're going to need that's in this assignment, and doing it is what's going to get them there. So, what that means is that I grade way less stuff than I used to grade because I'm handing out maybe two, three assignments every class period. Um, and I only grade maybe one of them. I don't grade any of them on a day because I just want them to practice and engage with it. And when you understand that and you can help your students understand that, that's where really cool things can start to happen in the classroom. So that's simplifying. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, the next element of this kind of freeing ourselves and making sure that we can go home at 3 o'clock at the end of the day and not feel like we have to stick around, is making sure we have the right tools. Okay, so the tools that I'm talking about today are different than tools than would exist, when I started teaching, just like 10, 15 years ago. So these tools, the tools that I want to really get into, is not going to be a surprise probably on this channel, and that is AI. Okay, there are so many AI tools and lots of them that are geared specifically for education. The two that I use almost daily are Google's Gemini and School AI. I love both of them. They're both fantastic. They do different things, um, but they're great. And for teachers, they're free. Our district, I'm lucky enough to be in a district where they pay for both of those, and so I get all of the features. And so I understand not everybody has access to all of the things, but if you're in a position to choose an AI product for your school, School AI would definitely be my number one recommendation, and then Gemini to follow that. Okay, so we'll jump into why we would use AI. How are these tools going to help me to free up time? Well, really, these tools are going to be able to help you do the planning part that's coming up next, and they'll help you to simplify as well. My workflow generally is I'll upload a PDF of whatever my standards are, and then I follow kind of this 3R framework when I'm working with AI. So the first R is I like to give it a role, kind of tell it how I want it to behave. The second R is the request, what I want it to do. And then the third R are some extra requirements. Okay, so extra requirements. So a role, a request, and requirements. What that might look like in this context would be something like this. You are an expert in curriculum design using the fill in the blank state standards that you're teaching. And that's the role. Okay. The next part is the request. I want you to break down the standards for a unit on whatever that unit is and find the top two things that students must know by the end of this unit. And then give me maybe five supporting things from the standards that would be nice to know. So you can do that whole simplifying process in a matter of moments. And what I'm saying is not to replace your brain with a robot because that's dumb. Your brain is awesome. It's a teacher brain. And when we use it, we unlock so many cool things. But what I'm saying is to help you speed that process up. Okay. I would say there probably is a fourth R in my AI use kind of workflow. And that fourth R would be to refine. And honestly, this might be the most important R. We could give it a role and a request and be detailed about the requirements. But if we just take the first thing, it's usually not going to be that great. So refining means, oh, I like this and this that you gave me. I don't like those other two things. And it can help you to kind of really fine tune that in. Other things that I'll say, just tips, is to give it as much information about your class and your students as you can without obviously, disclosing personal information about your kids. One of the reasons why I really love School AI is their privacy policy. Unlike most large language models, all the data that is produced and put into School AI stays in School AI and does not ever go to feed the system or train future models. So that's a huge win. But I would include things like in my class, they are 10th graders, and I have three students with an IEP, and then I have maybe 5 or 7 students that are learning English as a second language. Okay, so I'd include all of those details maybe. Also, they're really interested in X, Y, and Z. Leading into the next elements of this method to the madness of not ever working at home again, is planning. I think of planning in this way. So I look at my day. Okay, I'll look at my day as kind of like this linear time of what's going on. For me, at the school that I work for, that starts at 7 a.m. and goes until 3 p.m. This is my contract time, my window of time where I know this is the time that I have to get the stuff done. Okay. So at the beginning of each day, Fridays are a little bit different, but more or less each day is built like this. I have 30 minutes at the start of the day and 30 minutes at the end of the day. So that's giving me an hour to get some stuff done, to plan, to grade, to do things like that. Now, an hour is a long-ish time, but not a huge amount of time. And then my day is also broken up by lunch because we're teachers. We have 30 minutes to like cram it in there. 30-minute lunchtime. Okay. Book ending that, because I'm at a high school, we work on like the block schedule of A and B days. And so we'd have periods like 1, 2, 3, and 4 on an A day, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 on the B day. Our classes are blocks of 90 minutes. So 90 minutes for all of these. Okay, so 90-minute blocks of time. In those blocks of time is when I want to find, how do I get stuff done when I only have 30 minutes at the start and 30 minutes at the end to work with, because I'm definitely not working during lunch, and neither should you. There's an excellent book called Atomic Habits. Probably you've read it. It talks about habit tracking. So one of the things you can do in your plan, and you can use AI to help you with this, is to track how you're spending time, to look at how are you presenting your lessons? Are you putting them in chunks? Are you lecturing the whole time? What are you doing when your students are working independently? So break all of that down. And what I have found for me is that I can pretty consistently end up with some blocks of time in these class periods. I will say that we don't teach all 4 periods at our high school, so we usually have one of these open as our conference period. Mine, for example, is at the end of the day. So that's kind of nice. And I know it doesn't always work out that way. So that's 90 minutes. I'll add it over here. We'll keep track of how much time we get. So I've got 90 minutes there. What I can do is I usually break my class down like this. The first 15, 20 minutes is some kind of like starter activity. Then I'll probably work with them for like half an hour or so doing some like I do, you do, we do, teaching them the content. But then I'll usually, about every class period, they'll have a block of time, usually around 20 minutes, that's uninterrupted just for them to work on the things that we've been practicing. Then, we'll come back and do some other things and then wrap it up. And these can be kind of fluid at the end. So that's 20 minutes for each of these days that I'm teaching stuff. So that's another hour. Okay, so we have 2.5 hours of time to do things. So we have an hour here, we have, this hour and a half. So that's 2.5 hours. I guess 3.5 hours. We have 3.5 hours to do stuff. And now that's starting to look pretty good. So the next thing that I would say, coming back to the tools, I said that planning is a big thing that AI is going to help us with. The way that I think about that is once you've mapped out, here's what my schedule is, here's how I'm planning my lessons, you can use AI to help guide you on how you can do things like task stacking. What are some things that you can do at the same time? How can you grade things while your students are doing it? Because the reality is they don't need you every minute of every class period. They don't. They need some time to just work on their own, and you need some time to work on your own. As long as you're keeping your eyes up and open and aware of what's happening, then yeah, get tucked into something for about 20 minutes and maybe plan or maybe grade something. And then use those bigger blocks of time for the more labor intensive tasks like mapping out a new unit. The other thing is that AI speeds this whole process up as well. Again, I'm not saying replace your planning with just doing AI, but use it as a collaborative partner. Use it as a tool to help you think more quickly. Upload documents, upload exams, upload all of the stuff, and say, here's what I've been doing. How can I make it better? So that's simplify, that's making sure we're using the right tools, and that's planning. The last thing is also kind of the scariest thing is executing. You just gotta get out there and do it. And that's easier said than done. I know. And like I said, it's not a quick fix. I'm not suggesting at the end of this video, you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm just going home and I'm not bringing anything with me. You gotta kind of wean yourself off of that. And that's where simplifying and planning and using AI helps you to do all of that. But really, the courage comes from that first day when you close your laptop, you leave the stack of papers in the inbox because you know you've got a system for it, and you walk out of the school and you don't have anything, just your keys and your wallet and your phone, and you just go and you go home. And then when you get home, you don't check your email, you don't respond to messages from students, you don't do those things because you're choosing not to. And instead, I don't know, maybe go play pickleball or something. Like, pick up a new hobby, hang out with your wife or your spouse, your people. Go do the things that you want to do that make you happy. And here's how all of that helps your lesson plans to get better. There's a law that says uh, law is commonly known as a law, and that's Parkinson's law. You may have heard of it. Parkinson's law essentially is that you'll get stuff done in the time you give yourself to do it. So if I have a project for my students, and I do projects a lot. So if I have a project and I say, all right, students, I'm going to give you 3 days to do this project. So these 3 class periods, this is how much time you have to do the project. You want to know something? Do you want to know how long that project is going to take them? It's going to take them 3 days to do that project. But at the same time, if I say, okay, students, instead of you have this project and we have these 2 class periods to do it. On day 1, I need you to do these 3 things. On day 2, these are the next tasks that need to be done. And wouldn't you know it, if you are scaffold and planning and all of that, how long does this project take your students to do? Same exact project, same requirements. It takes them 2 days. Takes them 2 days to do it. The same is with us. If we tell ourselves, okay, self, I have between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. to get all of the stuff done for my teaching job. I'm simplifying, I'm using the right tools, and I'm planning appropriately for this time. When we're doing that and when we're practicing that, what you will find out as an almost guarantee is that's how much time it's going to take for you to do your job. Will you have to let go of some things? Yeah, you probably will. Will it be okay? Yeah, it definitely will. You'll be able to show up for your students and be more purposeful with how you interact with them. You'll be more purposeful with how you spend your time at work, and you'll be more able to show up emotionally for yourself and for the other people around you. And just your job is going to feel so much better. And I've seen it in my practice. I've seen it in many other teachers who have done this same method. They don't take work home. They have wonderful vacations with their families. Every weekend is free. I mean, let's be real. A lot of us probably got into teaching in no small part because the schedule is awesome. And that's what I love. I love helping students, and I love being with my own family. And teaching makes both of those dreams come true. If this was helpful, if you've made it to the end of the video, I appreciate it. Looking at the time, I've been recording for about 23 minutes. And so if you've made it this long into the video, much appreciation. Definitely consider subscribing and stay tuned, because if you want to know more about how to make lessons that all of your students will love, watch this video next. Thanks.